Hey there, this is Phil Vischer.
This is Mike Nawrocki.
And we are watching Where's God When I'm Scared? The very, very first VeggieTales video that was produced in 1993 by 4 Dominican friars working in the back of a Taco Bell or something like that.
Very close. Very close.
So anyway, let's see here. I quit my job at this actually started before I quit my job. I had a job at a video post-production house. Mike worked there as well in Chicago. And I had a special deal with them where if I had any downtime, I could work on VeggieTales because I'd already come up with the basic idea for the show and had been trying to sell it for about 2 years at that point, unsuccessfully. And so while working at that post house, first we made this little 2-minute film,
Take 38.
VeggieTales screen test, take 38.
Yeah,
Which hopefully they'll put on as an Easter egg so you can see it.
Look for it.
Somewhere, maybe. But don't write me a nasty letter if you can't find it. And so then while I was at this post house, I made Junior Asparagus, made his family, made his house, his little room, built all those sets, and then wrote the script for the first half for the Tales from the CRISPR.
Mm-hmm. Which I named. Remember that one? Wait. Okay. All right. So here we go. There we go.
Hi, kids, and welcome to VeggieTales.
Yeah, you came up with that name based on the HBO
Tales from the Crypt. Yep.
Which was not for kids. But, we're always making jokes that aren't for kids. Wow, we got into it really quick here. Now, you'll notice here, this was the only episode where we actually had a real kid, and this was a girl from our church at the time who read this, but in retrospect, it was kind of slow-moving, so we decided it might be better if Bob or Larry read it.
Yeah, well, if you notice, there was really no animation on Bob at all. He just kind of stuck for a while.
That was a way to save time. So the countertop was originally built for the very, very first piece of VeggieTales animation, which was Mr. Cuke, a Larry the Cucumber test, just to see if he would work.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've kept it ever since, and I think it got rebuilt once, but other than that, it's just the way it was. Okay, I also built this set while I was working at the post house, and those little shadows.
I don't believe you can do it.
I got to be that little guy. That was me, remember?
I don't believe you can do it.
Sort of the precursor to Mr. Lunt, who you do. But,
yeah, and I'm doing this other guy who sounds a whole lot like Frankencelery and Jimmy Gord. But I built that little set at the post house, and actually, those little shadows...
I like that dissolve there. That was nice.
Yeah, we tried to make that not look so obvious, but, such is life. Those little shadows were motion captured. They're the only, I believe, just about the only elements in VeggieTales ever to be motion captured, which means performed in real time rather than animated by hand. And I actually wired those little shadows, just to the movements of my computer mouse, and then listened to the audio and made them wiggle in real time. So at this point, for the first approximately 4 minutes of this show, I was the only animator.
And wasn't this house modeled after the house you were renting?
Yes,
with your wife?
It was actually. We were living up on the north side of Chicago, and the layout of this house was very similar. Yep, stairs in the same place. Actually, walls were the same color, too.
Yep.
So,
it's art imitating life. Art imitating your house.
That's one bright kitchen. So,
I don't remember your house being that bright.
No, it wasn't that bright.
Sort of exaggerated.
Just that wall, the purple.
Okay, now you actually animated all this up to right about here, right?
Till he got into his room.
Till he got into his room?
So it's still me, and I was doing about 12 seconds a day and thinking, boy, I think I'm going to die. I might need some help. Right up to about, let's see, I got him into his bed. And I think I did a little bit more. Yeah, right around here was when I realized I was going to die. This is also before I had learned... Actually, we did those pupils in motion capture, too.
Oh, yeah?
We put his pupils on the mouse.
Okay.
I think and animated them in real time.
Oh, man.
And there's Bob's first words ever spoken in a story, other than the countertop.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Bob, I'm a tomato, and I'm here to help you.
It's a...
By the way, there's a green dragon to the left. In his room is a green dragon, which is probably the most complex thing. And there's the blue wind-up lobster.
Oh, yeah.
The green dragon is probably the most complex thing I have personally ever modeled.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing ever got more complex than that dragon until we had other modelers.
I'm specialized in the field.
I'm not a very good modeler. Now listen to Larry's voice.
Oh, no, I don't want to listen to Larry's voice.
It's strange. I think he had a
It's
cold.
kinda goofy.
He had a cold that day.
No, I just Larry had a real low dopey voice for the first 2 shows, I think, and then it started to get higher. And I had a lisp also with Larry up until like Larry Boy and the Rumor Weed or something.
Really?
Larry Boy had a lisp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Or Larry and Larry Boy had a
who,
lisp.
who decided it should go away?
I just got tired of the lisp. I just kind of went to Larry speech therapy for a while, got rid of the lisp, and Larry is what he is today.
But since you weren't even scared, I guess we'll just.
So Junior Asparagus, that's my wife. We recorded all this dialogue actually for the first half of the show at the post house where Mike and I worked, just in an edit room with a regular old mic.
Right.
Not even.
And we actually recorded it right to hard drive too, didn't we? Did we go right to disk or did we go to
went
DAT?
to DAT.
Oh, okay. And then we transferred it over to the SGI
Yeah,
hard
then we
drive.
put it on the SGI.
And boy, is the quality low.
Yeah, so we apologize for the quality of the audio and the quality of the video, which was, compressed and recompressed several times over the years.
I had fun with the sound effects though on the cartoon sound effects library. All
Yeah,
this
you
stuff.
did.
Yep.
So now I think that was the first shot that Robert Ellis animated, was the eyeballs in the closet. And Chris Olson, I hired those 2 guys. Robert had just graduated from the Art Institute of Chicago, and Chris had just graduated from University of Illinois, Champaign, and brought him in and said, okay, we've got 3 months and 1 computer.
Go.
Go. And, of course, none of us had ever done anything even remotely like this before.
Well, and the technology itself really hadn't gotten that far either, so we were trying to figure out how to even,
Yeah.
pull it off,
It was
technically as well as
tricky,
creatively.
because we had 1 computer, which had 1 300 megabyte hard drive, not gigabyte, megabyte.
Mm-hmm.
And so we figured out pretty soon that wasn't going to be enough. So we went out and bought 1 2 gigabyte hard drive, which right now my Palm Pilot I think has more.
That'll run you about
actually,
65 cents.
Yeah,
right
an
about now.
iPod has up to 10 gig on it,
Oh man.
and that hard drive cost $2,200. I remember. And so the whole show had to be rendered to that 1 hard drive, which then filled up. It would only hold maybe about a minute's worth
Yeah.
of rendered frames.
Yep.
And then we would have to save it all off to a DAT tape and delete it all, and then fill it up again, and then save that all off to a DAT tape, and then delete it all and fill it up again. So by the time we got to the end, we had a stack of like 20 to 30 DAT tapes with all the show on. And we didn't own a renderer, or we didn't own an editing system. So we figured when we get to the end, we'll just rent one, and then we'll dump all the frames. We didn't have any money to buy one, so we'll just
Right.
rent one for a couple of weeks.
That's all it would take.
Yeah, surely that's all
Just
it'll
2
take.
weeks.
And then we'll dump all those frames in a couple of weeks onto the editing system and put in sound effects and make it all snappy pretty and lay it off to tape, and we'll be done.
It'll be easy. Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
2 weeks seems like an eternity when you're in your 20s.
But we didn't really know how we were going to get the frames over to the editing system, because nothing was as easy then as it is now.
Yeah.
So, and we had all the frames were on a Silicon Graphics workstation, and the editing system was a Mac-based editing system, Macintosh-based. So we had to do something called FTP to get.
You know
them
what?
from
I just
one to the
realized
other.
something.
What?
We went through all this
there's
just talking
see the green
tech,
dinosaur.
and that's pretty cool. And Larry did his, and we didn't even say anything about that.
Oh,
We're just
what
talking
should we
technical
say?
here. I don't know. Were we concerned that that
I
Larry
was
was
a little
making
worried.
a farting noise?
Yeah, and also.
Can I even say that on a
No,
commentary?
you can't say that.
No,
I don't
sorry.
think. He was
Sorry.
making a spitting noise, but
Okay.
but he was also implying that that's what God did
Yeah. So
when
we
he
were
made
kind
the
of.
stars. So
yeah.
that's right from the beginning. We were kind of pushing the envelope. We were.
Right on
Yeah,
the
there's
edge.
some risky stuff. Boy, that sure is a nice dinosaur. Did you see that dinosaur? It was in that shot, too.
Yep.
Whoa! Hang on. It's Franken-celery. That's trouble. I'm getting in the toy chest. You'll notice I don't think there's a single texture map in this entire show.
Oh, everything is just flat shaded?
Everything is just flat, colors the walls, just blue. You know, the toys, just whatever. Oh, Larry has a texture map. He's got his little bumpiness
Yeah.
and, you know, a little green color variation. But, you know, it works. Whatever. Didn't get any letters. Actually, I had one guy call me to say, why didn't you use texture maps? And, well, I don't know. Didn't have time. I don't know. It seems to work. That little picture on the wall there's a texture map, of course. You get the picture there, but other than that, it's a pretty darn simple show.
Yeah.
And the books up there on the shelf, they're just cubes, flattened.
I like the faceting on the little
Yeah.
thing there on the footboard. That's nice.
Yeah.
There's really no. I don't think there are any like smooth curves in this whole show either.
Not very
Every time
many,
there's
no.
It's all straight lines.
Yeah, it's not a real smooth show. Oh, and this is actually the first song that was written for VeggieTales. This God is Bigger Than the Boogeyman was written before the theme song. It was that song first, and then and actually at this point in the history of kids video, the We Sing videos were really popular. So I was watching the We Sing videos,
Okay.
which were just public domain songs, wall to wall, saying, okay, what are kids going for in music? And kind of decided that this kind of bluegrass Dixieland feel would be a lot of fun.
Okay.
And then that's when I had to figure out who could actually do it, because I was just strumming this song on my guitar.
Right.
You
I
know?
remember that, and I remember listening to Kurt's version of it in a cassette player in your car, in your garage. You remember that?
Wow.
You played it for me, and I was actually surprised at how good it was. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, this guy,
This Kurt
makes
guy,
some good music.
This Kurt guy, he might be worth having around. That's what we
right.
was thinking.
Yep.
So, but I played this song for my wife first on my guitar, and she said, "That's too simple to be a song. That can't be a song." And I said, "No, really, I think it'll work." And then Kurt made it a little fancier. Here's Dad, the first time we had to wrestle with how does Dad sit down and where does his tie end up when he's sitting? It turns into a belt. Look at that, he's got a belt on.
Yep. That's a stylish tie, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and that's a texture map.
Yeah.
There are like 5
model
texture
those
maps
stripes.
in this whole
whole
film, I think.
Yeah.
I do think we should
But that's like a warm little scene. That's kind of nice for being extraordinarily low budget. Little hat. So cute. Oh, look at that nodding. We're a little more subtle now with our animation.
Yeah.
But see, we had to turn out like, 10 seconds a day per animator on this to make it.
Well, I think the other thing, too,
really
even though it was like 10 seconds per day, I don't even know if we have the skill to animate better, even if we would have had the
didn't.
time.
You'll notice in here that, for example, it's a rule in animation that when a character looks from one point to another point, the first thing you do is you blink. And if you actually pay attention, you typically do that. You blink, and then your pupils go, and then your head follows. So most head turns go in a sequence. Blink, pupils, and then head catches up. And we clearly did not know that principle in this show because it almost never happens. We just got pupils kind of drifting left and right.
Characters
up
sort
and
of jerking left and
Hey,
right.
this is the first ever Silly Song with Larry, and the only one that was not written by Mike Nawrocki. Hey!
Well, High Sec Mark Volcano did that
Oh,
one.
that's
Remember
right.
that one?
Oops,
Yeah.
sorry, my mistake.
Yeah.
I wrote this one, and there was we never thought that we'll do a Silly Song with Larry in every show we do. It was just, let's just do something silly in this one. And how about kind of a Monty Python, now it's time for a Silly Songs with Larry. So, and I came up with a song, which you probably already know if you have the DVD on Ultimate Silly Song Countdown. I was walking through the plaza of the Dirksen Federal Building in downtown Chicago with a handful of tax forms, and all of a sudden started singing out of the blue, "Everybody's Got a Water Buffalo." And so I had to ride back to work, and this was when I was working at the post house before we'd officially started making the show, and I had to hum it all the way back to work so I wouldn't forget it. And it was animated entirely by Chris Olsen.
You know,
in a week, I think.
In a week. And the thing that bothered me about it at the time, which I like now, it's all one camera, one shot. And I thought it would be too monotonous, at the time. And I think we had problems with it because there were so many frames. We couldn't break up the shot because it was so long.
Yeah, we didn't have
entire
time
shot. Yeah.
either.
But, it works. It works for
It
me
works. Now we're trying to make them simpler like that again because we got kind of too complex.
now.
All of our silly songs were turning into, fully produced Broadway musicals. Is killing the budgets. This piece of animation is actually from an industrial film that I worked on. Not exactly, it was a daytime thing. And I won't mention the client because they'll say, hey, we own that. What are you doing? But I built the sets and the mountain range and the texture maps for this industrial piece and then repurposed it for the beginning of this show. And I think we decided to do Daniel in the Lion's Den because my wife and I at this point had just seen Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat by Andrew Lloyd Webber and just thought that was, just an amazing piece of work and a great way to tell a Bible story. So we decided to do kind of that kind of adaptation of Daniel and the Lion's Den. And here it is.
There it is. That is certainly a black and white floor, isn't it?
Yeah, they really liked black and white linoleum tile back in ancient Persia.
True black and true white.
Oh yeah, true black, true white. Yeah, there's no shades of gray. But look, see the motif, the little flower motif on the walls, that was came through research. They actually used that motif on Darius's throne room.
Cool.
So that was, and that's a texture map.
That's a texture map.
I think it's the only texture map in that.
Wasn't everybody doing the whole chessboard thing too back then? Remember all the chessboard pieces everybody would do in 3D?
Yeah, they were.
Kind of looks like that.
So this whole set, this whole palace, everything, and this was the most complex set in this show, had 20,000 polygons in it. Okay, now for reference.
Didn't Khalil's turban have more than
20,000? For reference, on the Jonah pirate ship, there was a bag. Inside the bag was a bowling pin, and the bowling pin had 20,000 polygons in it.
Yep.
Okay, and you don't even see it because it's inside the bag.
We got polygons just to kick around. Throw them in a bag.
See, but man, in the old days, oh, look, it's the pear. She never came back. We never used her again.
Yeah, we should bring back the pear. Well, wait a minute. Although the voice came back in Jonah. Remember the woman on the dock?
Back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's Gail Freeman.
Yeah. And who's also the narrator. Yep.
The narrator. And that opening song, when we were flying over that stuff I made for another piece, my wife came up with that one. That was one of hers. And I wanted the opening score.
Oh, the opening score. Okay.
That one. And I actually tried to write words for it for the longest time.
Okay.
But I couldn't figure out how to make it work, so we ended up using it just instrumentally.
Right. Yeah.
Look at those guys. They're cute. Not a whole lot of motion going on, you'll notice. Ooh. Woo!
And remember this song? This is the first song we co-wrote. Remember, you had written part of it.
Oh,
and you wanted me to come up with a couple extra verses.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Yeah, I remember that.
This little song still works. I really like this. I like the way this is shot and the choreography and everything.
Now I don't know if you know this story, but the three girls in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" who sang, in the hedges on the highways.
Didn't I tell you that? Didn't I tell you that story?
I'm telling the story. I don't care who told me.
Well, you said, I don't know if you know this or not.
I don't know.
I know it because I told you.
I don't know that you told me. I don't know that. Anyway, the three girls in "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" that sing that little song actually auditioned for the Coen brothers singing this song. Singing our song. That's the story.
Yep. See, I found that online
that?
And I sent it to you.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you lie.
I do not lie.
See, there's very little...
better not be lying.
Almost no secondary
That comes
motion
up later.
in this. But I storyboarded this whole film because we didn't have any story artists. And I did all the art direction because we didn't have any art directors. And I designed the chair because we didn't have any designers. And there's nobody in the company. So...
Yep.
That was a nice shot of that guy's belly button there. Not sure what happened there. Look, they're
nice little slide they got going there.
Yeah, I think Chris Olsen animated a lot of this. I think, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, you can see some of the compression artifacts
Oh,
around
yeah.
the door in the background.
Oh yeah, it's compressed.
Yeah, because
All
it
over
was
the place.
highly compressed to, if you're technical, to a Media 100 nonlinear editing system when it was first introduced, like the very first generation of that editing system. And then, because we were renting it for 2 weeks and we ran out of time, the rental company was coming to take it away, and we were only half done laying off of our show, so we had to dump it down onto a Betacam tape and then rent an Avid from somebody else and then re-digitize the whole thing onto the Avid.
So it's
Like
compressed
the
all
worst
over the
possible scenario.
place. Yeah, so it's
You notice those banners, they seem to be
a little dark.
self-levitating.
Well, it's just that the fishing line is so fine.
Oh,
on there
really?
that you can't see it.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I like this. This was kind of fun. But look at the guy's eyes on the right. His eyeballs are just kind of drifting around, and he's not
Yeah.
blinking.
Yep.
Isn't that good fur? I did that texture map on his fur collar there.
That's
Doesn't that
brilliant.
look like real fur?
Oh man, it's
think
like
it's-
you're.
it's Dalmatian.
It's really there.
Now, at the end of this song, there is a thunderclap and a lightning flash, which was actually not intentional. It was a render glitch that we
That
could
came
not
at just
get
the
to
right
go
time.
away,
Yep.
so we ended up just putting a sound effect to it because we couldn't get the render glitch to go away, and turned it into thunder.
It works too. It was amazing. It came
Yeah.
at the time that it did.
You'll see it when it comes up. Actually, the little green onions have texture maps on them to make their little bottoms white.
Was there actually glass in his monocle? I can't remember if there
I
was.
think so. I don't know. Turn around. Yeah.
Is there
I
a
think
little bit of
is.
reflection in
Just
there?
A little.
I don't know.
No, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just be the compressions.
Oh, here we go.
compression
Here we go.
artifact.
Here comes the thunderstorm.
There you go.
Ooh. That was unscripted. It was improvised by the computer itself, but it really added.
Yep.
And then the thunderstorm's over. Oh, that's my wife. I forgot about this little part. Man, I haven't watched this show in about 10 years.
It's been a long time.
Just begun. That was very Lloyd Webberian, that little bit. Oh, that town. That town is all just little
Look at
boxes.
those little boxes. Oh man.
Yeah, I think I built this little set. I don't remember. Or did Chris Olsen build it? I can't remember. But it was pretty extravagant to build a whole set just for one shot.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
man.
Like a whole town.
Woo! 2 shots. That was slapstick. Did you see
Wow, that door was moving pretty slow, wasn't it, for slapstick? I'm looking at the animation now.
that? This was kind of hard. Getting characters to carry other characters. And they're in some sort of red world. That's-
Mars-ish.
Yeah.
So that's
Oh.
what Lion's Den looked like back then.
Chris Olsen did that little lion thingy. He was always good at the little, iconography.
Uh-huh. Yep.
He also did the little signs in the Forgive-O-Matic when they came
Oh,
down.
yeah,
The little
that's true.
symbol of
Yep.
the bear and the blender and the.
Did he do the Lion pizza box too?
I think I'm pretty sure. He was kind of our first graphic artist. Before we had any graphic artists.
Now, I'd love to compare this with Little Joe. Remember when Little
Oh, yeah.
Joe gets thrown into the
Yeah.
mine shaft? I'd love to do a split screen on both of those and just look at the
Yeah.
art and technology.
Now this is some funny stuff, and this was improvised by Mr. Mike Nawrocki and Mr. Mike Sage.
Yeah, the
Mike
Mike and
Sage
Mike.
being the short guy,
Uh-huh.
Mike Nawrocki being the tall guy. And boy, were we laughing. That was some funny stuff. Larry's not laughing.
No, he's in Lion's
He
Den.
didn't get it.
It's not funny to him.
He didn't get it.
Maybe eat some. Or, well, maybe one will sit on
Like
them
lights are
and
gonna cooperate? Like one's gonna lie on them and say, hey, you eat them, I'll lie on them. Come on.
This was
Animated by Chris Olsen in one
animated
night.
by Chris Olsen in one
67.
night.
Just taking those little guys and
Flapping them around.
Flapping 'em around,
See, you
yep.
gotta be clever.
Yep.
We've always had a saying at Big Idea that clever is worth more than gold, because then you don't have to spend a lot of gold. If you're being like the lions, for example, we're thinking, how on earth are we gonna do lions?
Uh-huh.
We can't do lions. That'd be expensive.
Yep.
But I put on my thinking cap and I sit in my thinking chair.
You're thinking
And I
chair.
decide we don't need lions. We just need yellow eyeballs,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll just kind of float.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's my wife again. Oh, I did those fuzzy pink things.
That's a pink puffy cloud from Teletubby Land.
Yeah, I think so. And this was kind of tricky, this big old camera move, because we weren't used to doing big old camera moves back then. See how
Oh man.
minimalist the set is?
Oh yeah. Who's turning? Is Larry turning, or
I
is the
don't
camera
know.
turning, or the world
I
turning?
think a little of both. Actually, we had a problem with that shot for a while because the animator had Larry turning and the camera was turning, but you couldn't tell which was happening.
Do you remember my
Did
suggestion
you
about?
see how the lions got compassionate there?
I did. Yeah,
Now
their
they,
little eyes.
Now they care
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah, there's not so
They
scary
say,
lions
he looks
anymore.
hungry, let's order pizza.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying there.
Oh, look remember
at
my
his little
suggestion
dance.
like a year and a
I
half
think
ago?
did Robert Ellis do that little
Yeah,
dance?
I think he did. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Remember my suggestion a couple years ago? I wanted to actually reanimate this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, just keep the same script, re-record it, and
Right.
reanimate it.
Yeah,
I would love to do that one of these days.
I
I
don't-
think that'd be great.
I think we'd lose money on it. Because
I just
everybody
wanna
already
see it.
has it. See?
Yeah,
I
but
don't
they don't
think
have
they're-
it with good
I
animation
know, I
and
don't
good
think
audio.
they're all going to buy it again.
Oh, I don't know.
Because they know the story. People
Yeah.
care more about the story than they care about the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that's probably true.
Daniel, is that you?
Yeah, I'll be right up.
Boy,
I
that's
just have to say
very.
goodbye to
Look
my
at that
family.
animation. Wee, wee. Slide them around.
Oh, the best though is still the Rack Shack and Benny floating balloon
See
mom.
you guys later.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It's a
you know, some
miracle.
people have resources, and some people don't have resources. But just because you don't have resources doesn't mean you can't make a show.
Okay.
You just have to make it in a different way. Look, his pupil came through. That was always happening. Their black pupils would pop through their eyelids.
Yeah.
And then we'd either have to go in and adjust them down or try to paint them out later.
And we tried to paint them out, but we didn't really notice them. We didn't have quite the eye for
Right,
the the
right.
frame.
Although in this show,
Frame-accurate eye yet.
we didn't have any paint software, so we couldn't paint anything out.
Wasn't I doing it in? Oh no, later I
No,
was
that
actually
was
doing it
later.
in Media 100. I'd actually
Yeah.
I'd freeze frames and bring them into like
Yeah.
Paint or Photoshop or something and paint them out and throw them back into.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, look at all that pupil
Yeah,
stuff.
on this show, we had to catch it and then go back and actually go into the animation file and push their pupil back into their head a little more and then re-render
Yeah.
those frames.
Yep.
And that was kind of a hassle. That was a very nice hop cycle on the way out.
That
Very
wasn't
nice
bad,
and
yep.
fluid.
Wow, that was really neat. How
Ooh,
God
his mouth
protected
didn't quite
Daniel
say
from those
wow,
lions.
but he.
And he's not quite
tried.
looking at the camera. Larry's looking at the camera.
Hey, thank you.
Hour.
Ooh.
We're over here by Cordy the
Wow, this is hard to
Talk
watch,
about
isn't it?
what we've learned
It's kind of
today.
funny that he said it was his finest hour and this was the first show ever. I mean, what was
Well,
his
maybe
point
it
of
was his
reference for
finest
that?
hour so far.
Oh, this song, my wife and I came up with
As I was
melodically
saying,
while we were driving to church one morning. And we were singing in the car, and she was singing the melody, and I was harmonizing, but I didn't yet carry around a little tape recorder.
Well,
And so we had to sit through, she actually had to sit through church humming it all through the church service so we wouldn't forget it. And then we came back home and wrote the words that afternoon.
What's Larry doing?
I don't know.
He
Trying
was
to
looking
figure out
into
if
Bob's
Bob is a
ear.
real tomato or a CGI tomato. Bob, are you CGI?
if Cordy has a verse for us today. Okay.
Here come now QWERTY. I actually built for another corporate training video.
Oh, really?
And I hope they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
notice either.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
they wanted
just
a.
an IBM 386, right?
Yeah, it was a 386. They just wanted a little computer that could look around and wiggle a little.
Yeah.
So I made this little wiggling computer and then thought, hey, I can use that wiggling computer again. And now it's in VeggieTales. And it's still in VeggieTales 10 years later.
We've always wanted to upgrade QWERTY though, but we don't know if it'd be.
Yeah, I don't
It'd be the
know.
same.
I think it's still good, you know, because if all you're doing is word processing,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
check an
a-
email.
a Bible search every now and then,
Yeah.
you don't need more than a 386.
Yep.
Well, there you go. Wow, that was, look, you can't even read the credits.
Yeah.
We didn't know about
We don't know
black
drop shadows.
outlines yet. Man.
Do you remember? And actually,
man.
the original version of this tape, we put the credits after each segment. Remember that?
Yes, we
so
did.
we had God is Bigger, and then the credits,
Credits.
and
Yep.
then the silly song, and then the credits,
Yeah.
and then
I don't think
Daniel
we did
and
it
the
on
credits.
the silly song, did we? I don't think we did.
I don't know, did we? I can't
And then
remember.
Daniel in the credits, and we got letters. We only sold 500 of those first videos, so if you have one of those, ho ho ho!
See, look, I was calling myself Michael at that point because
Really?
I was more
That
sophisticated.
was so sophisticated.
Yeah,
That made you look older too.
Yeah, it
When
did.
you said Michael.
yeah. Well, now it kind of makes me feel younger because that's my son's name.
So, oh, but wait, there's more credits.
yeah, yeah.
So we had credits after each of the 2 segments, and if you have one of those videos, it's probably collectible. But then we got letters saying, hey, we got to the end of the first segment and the credits rolled, and my kids got up and walked away. Because they've been conditioned to get up and walk away whenever they see credits.
Yeah, yep.
So don't do that anymore. So we
Yep.
said, okay, we won't.
We won't.
And then we came back with the second video, and
Oh, look, dialogue breakdown.
dialogue breakdown,
Oh, man.
takedown, shakedown.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Yep, and I think on the show number 1, I actually had to do it off of videotape.
Yeah, you were.
Like shuttling it back and forth,
Yeah.
writing down every single syllable.
No. I think you were doing that on the SGI because we didn't have a videotape
Oh, you're
deck.
right. Yeah, I
All
did
we
that
had
on.
was a computer.
We had a computer, so I actually I did do that digitally. Yep.
Digitally.
was
That's
still really
That's
hard.
almost as boring as working in a toll booth. But Mike did it for the team.
For
And
the team.
look,
Oh, look, I think that's
the
a more
end.
recent
wow,
animation.
That's very nice. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Copyright 1998. That's not when we made that show. Oh well, goodbye!